Hello, and how are you? I welcome you to our third lecture, or what you can call part 5 of third lecture, first session of learning how to create Flutter mobile application or mobile applications using Flutter. We're going to have 2 sessions, each 1 hour. So I request all of you to be very attentive. And with that much said, let's go straight into today's business. In the previous lecture, we stopped at this level where we could style containers, and we could also create what? We could also style texts. We looked at different. I also tasked you to look at different layouts, whereby I tasked you to look at columns and also lists. So let's go through those very fast. Then after going through columns and lists, then we shall proceed to states, and then we see also how we go to dynamic lists. So I'll go to our home. Let me open the project and I go to main screen. So members, can you hear me?
No.
You should mute your microphone, please. Can you mute your microphone? How we did it? Mute your microphone. Please, and you should be in class, please. You should be in class. I expect all of you to be attentive. So stop what you're doing and first respect and pay attention to the class. Alright, so you can see our screen is there. So what we're going to do, we're going to create here a list for layouts we are going to use to practice layouts, such as column layout. So let me go ahead and duplicate this, and then we're going to put here what we call columns. So we're going to understand a column and rows. Okay, so alright, so let's go ahead and explore columns. So I'm going to create now a layout. I'm going to create a layout for columns. So this is a layout that we use for practicing the container styling. So let me create a screen for. So I'll come here and call it so there you go, and then come and put here stateless widget and call it column screen. So I'm going to link this column. I'm going to link this that in a way if someone clicks here, I should link us to this page of columns. So we shall go back to our main screen, our main container, and put here column. So if I click here, it will take me to this empty screen. So let's go there, or this what we call placeholder. So we're going to go ahead and put our column that we're going to use for practicing. So shall we first return the scaffold? and then return a body. So come and return a body here. So to create a column, you just simply write column like this. All right, and then this column takes what we call children. Okay, so in this column you can give multiple children like this. All right, so you'll have something like this. Okay, let me first remove all these and then just simply put children and put, for example, I say text. All right, so I put just a simple text in our first column, the first row of the column. So with the column you can add as many as possible. So I can just add another one like this, can add another child. So if I save, you'll see how many children there. So now our previous question, in the previous lecture I asked you a question that, okay, now what if the item inside the column are more than the screen that is provided, or the screen of a phone? So you can see here there are many. I've put many. Let's say the last one is called last column. Say this is last text. Now you can see that if we go beyond our screen, it is throwing an error. So how we can solve that? We can wrap it with what we call single child scroll view. With single child scroll view, it will give us ability to scroll this column and be able to access things that are beyond the screen that is provided. So let's go ahead and surround it with single child scroll view. So one of how you can surround something with another thing, you can just simply press here and then go ahead and say surround with. Let me just come back and show you. Just come here, move your mouse here, you'll see this suggestion, and then come and say wrap with. Okay, so you can select here any of the widget. So for example, I can select here center. Now I go ahead and change this center widget to single child scroll view. So single child scroll view takes a what? One child, just as how it says it. So if I save, I'll have ability now to scroll my column. You see, I'm able now to scroll the column. So that is how you can make your column scrollable in case you find your column not scrollable. All right, so that is it. Another way, we can also play with what we call rows. Okay, so to play with a row, what I'm going to do, I can just simply come here and add a row. A row is a column. A row is a what? A row is also a layout. It's also a layout or a widget that enables us to put there multiple things but are going to be arranged in what? In vertical order. These are not being arranged horizontally in a column. So in a row, they're going to be in a vertical. Okay. So let's go ahead and add here, for example, our column. Our row. So I can just say row. So a row, it also takes children. All right. So I can put here, for example, text. I can say row data 1, and then I add another and say row data 2, like this. So you'll see I'll have 2 rows there. Okay. Okay, so now this column takes also so many parameters. Before we go into rows, this column takes many parameters. You can find them here. You just simply press the control button and hold it, then click on the column. You'll be able to see the different parameters it takes. So if we go back, you can see text, for example, main alignment. You can say start. So that is the main alignment that is coming from top to bottom. And then you can say maybe cross alignment start. So cross alignment is the alignment between these. So you can say start, you can say end, so it will be arranged at the end here. So that is how you can realign your columns. So here we have a row that has two items. Okay, let's try to style them and make them a little bit big. All right, let's say maybe let me put their let me put their containers. Okay, so I put here a container, or let me wrap this one in the container. Okay, so I wrap it to the container. Let me remove this constant, and then I come and style this container and give it some color and make it red. All right, so let's give it some now let's go ahead and increase that size of this text. All right, so let's make it color to be white. It's supposed to be text style. All right, so let me increase its size. So I make it that big. So I'm going to make two of them. So I'll come here back to our row and I create another item inside the row. But this one I'm going to make it red. Blue. And make this one to be column 2. So if I save like this, you also see you'll see that we are also again facing the same error in a way that our item has gone beyond outside the screen. So to solve this kind of a problem, so you have to wrap it with what we call expanded. Those contents inside the column, you have to wrap them with the expanded with expanded container or with expanded layout to enable them to have enough space to expand in. So I can come here and wrap it with the center, and I change this center to expanded. And then you'll see that it will not be able to break down. You can also come here to this one, find them to be equal, and then come and wrap it also with expanded. So see, they are now equally divided. So even though the content is beyond our screen, but it is breaking down so it can fit there. So that is how we do what? That is how we make our content fit in a column. However, you can also come here again and, for example, change now the ratio. So if you want this one to have a bigger ratio than this, or if you want the first column first item in a row to have a bigger ratio than the other one, you can just simply come here and say, put what we call flex, and maybe make it, for example, 2. So if you make it 2, it will have a ratio of 2 to 1. Otherwise, if you make them 2, then you are going to have a ratio of 1 to 1, like this. Okay? So that is how you can set that's how you can set a ratio for your column. So if you want them to have different ratios, you can use the flex to do that. So this column almost works the same as the same as flex horizontal. You can do the same, you can achieve the same using flex horizontal. Okay, so that is how you can handle columns and rows when the item go beyond what the space that you have. All right, so I hope you'll go ahead and practice this so you can understand properly, or you can understand very well how columns and rows work. So that much said, it's going to take us now to another topic. So I've looked at how we fix the the column that is not scrolling. I've looked at how we fix the what, how we fix the row that is going beyond the current screen width that we have by applying what we call expanded. So that is how we apply those. So all right, so let's proceed now to another topic. So we're going to look at what we call states. So state help us to change state, just like how it sounds. So if you don't have something that's going to change when an item is running, you need just a stateless widget. I repeat, if you don't need to change anything when the item is running, when the project is running, we use just a stateless widget. However, if you want to change something when the app is running, you use what you call a stateful widget. So for example, you can see here we've been using stateless widget. Alright, so stateless widget are almost same as stateful widget, but the only difference is the stateless widget, it will enable us to be able to update things dynamically even when the application is running. But here the case is, if something you have not compiled it will not update in this particular screen. Alright, so with that much said, let's go ahead and create and look at how we can do stateful widgets. So I'll come back to our home screen and then come here and say, let me create here another item for state management that's going to link up to state management. Members, I hope you're following. If you're following, type 1 in the chat. Type 1 in the chat if you're following. Okay, can see people are following. That's good. Okay, that's good, guys, if you're following. So we're going to look at how we can implement states. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a screen that I'm going to use for testing states. So I'll come here to my screens, come and create another screen that I'm going to call state management.dat. Alright, so in this state management, I'm going to create a stateful widget. I've been creating stateless widget. Now in this case, I'm going to create a stateful widget. Just write st full like this to create for a stateful widget, then go ahead and give it a name. Okay, so I've called mine state management screen. All right, then I go ahead and import what we need. So here, state management screen, it has two sections. It has this stateful section, and then it is being the stateful section, it runs the what? The stateless widget. All right, or what you call the state. Okay, so but for the stateless widget, it has only one section of the content itself. But here stateful, it extends stateful, and then it has a section where it is running now the what? The state itself. So you can pause and look at the video very carefully. So that is how the stateful is organized. The stateful widget is organized. So what we're going to do, we're going to link it with the home screen in a way that if someone clicks here, they should be taken to this screen, stateful screen. So to do that, I'll just simply come to our main screen and go ahead and create a what and change this one to state management. Alright, so there we go. Now if I click here, it will take me to the state management, to the state management screen. So let's go to state management screen and we see how we can do what we can play with it. So as I repeat again, the advantage of state management screen is that it will enable us to manipulate item in the what? In the project when it is running, or in the application it is running. So let's go ahead and create here. I'll return a scaffold, and then give it an app bar, and then we call it state management, right? So here what we're going to do, we're going to use it to demonstrate two things: how we can do what, how we can update state. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to create two variables, and then I'm going to change them as you see how they are changing. For example, I can go ahead and say integer I equals to 0. Okay, now I'm going to put here, let me zoom my screen. I'm going to put here, I'm going to put this item here, I'm going to display it here. So to display this item or this integer, I'll just simply come here on top of it, on top of my column, and put a what, and put the integer itself. All right, I can say number this. All right, so it means that this number, let me put here spacer, I can say maybe start, main alignment start, so it will be on top there. So this number I want now, like so I have here the number and I'm displaying it. This number is I, which is 0, and I'm displaying it like this. Now I create here my elevated button. You can see how I create it, elevated button, and then I give it a child and say click me. So here I'm going to put maybe add, okay, bracket, or I can say maybe increment, and then we create another button called decrement. Now I want when someone clicks on this button called increment, I can put here, for example, bracket plus, and then here put bracket minus. I want when someone clicks on this increment button to go ahead and increase our what, our I. Okay, and I want when someone clicks on this, we should go ahead and decrease our what, our I. So to do that, it means that you'll need to update the state. So it means that this state will be changing when the application is what, is running. Okay, so this is a different scenario compared to the scenario that we have been dealing with, whereby we didn't want to change anything when the application is running. So to do that, I'm going to increase it. So to increase it, I'll just simply come here on the on press and then say I plus plus. Okay, and then I also come here and say I minus minus. So it means that if I click on this increment, you are going to expect this I to increase by 1, and if I click on decrement, we are going to expect this I to decrease by 1. So let us go ahead and click on the increment. So I'm clicking on the increment, you see nothing is happening. So why is it happening? Is it not displaying what you're expecting? It is because you have not updated state. So after increasing, you have to update the state and make sure that the state is what, is updated. So to update the state, you just simply say set state like this. Call the set state function and then go ahead and pass an empty curly bracket. By doing so, it will update the what, the status or the state. So if I come here, I also have to put it here in the minus. So let's go ahead and now see. So if I click on minus here, you see it is decreasing. You see? So it means that it decreases and then it goes ahead and updates the state of the screen. If I click on this plus, you'll see it is increasing. So it increases it and went ahead and and update the state of the screen. So by doing so, it means that you'll be able to update the state of variables that are being used in the project, even when it is already running. So that is beautiful. Now what we're going to do, we're going to make this, for example, we're going to add more things. We say, okay, now can it listen to more than one object or something like that, or in more than one implementation? yes, it will do so. So I can put here, for example, I say number 1, and then I go ahead. I say I is, number I is, and then I'm going to say whether it is an odd number or an even number. So I'll come here and say if I divided by 2, the remainder of I by 2 is 0. If it is 0, then it is an even, else it is an odd. So like this, to be able to tell us whether it is odd or even. So we want to see if this expression will also be able to update when we set state. Okay, we want to see if it will also be able to update when we set state. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I click on increment, you see 17 is odd, 18 is even, 19 is odd, 20 is even. So if I come here, I reduce, it is doing the same thing. So what does it mean? It means that it will update the entire implementation of the variables that will have changed when you do what? When you update the state. So that is very good because it will help us do things on the same page, that you can fetch. For example, if your users are online, you can fetch them on online, and without going to another stage, you go ahead to display them or do whatever operation that you might need to do. So that is how by use of state. So that is how the state works. It helps us to update the screen when there is what? When there is a need. Okay. So with that much said, we can proceed to another item. So I hope you've understood state. You can go ahead and play much more with state. All right. You can play much more with state. So now we proceed to another thing. So after looking at state, there's another important thing, what you call the structure of your application. So the way you organize your structure, the way how you structure your mobile application really matters, because it can help you and maybe your fellow developers or even you yourself to simply organize your project. So I've been looking at the user interfaces. I've been looking at how I work with user interfaces. So there's another thing called the back end. So back end is where we put the logic of what? Of an item. There's another thing here like the logic of an item. Let me show you here. There's some small meme that I came across. So as you're going to build complex systems, so we expect to do a lot of coding in our project. So the way how we organize our code really matters. Right now I've not done a lot of logic here, but when you start doing a lot of logic, so where you organize your code really matters. So we have to separate the two, what the user sees and where we do the operations from. So what the user will be seeing is what we call front end. For example, we have been working with front end almost since we started, apart from this small logic that we have put. Now, where you put the logic of your project, so the user can see something that is good, we call it a back end. So if you're new to these things, you can take this thing as an example. So let me show it to you. Okay, like to show it to you. All right. Okay, so it is here. Okay, it is here. So you can look at this. It is a part of a cloth. So a cloth, it has a design in front of it. You see, it looks nice, but behind that design, there is a lot of logic that has been done to make it come up with a beautiful pattern like that. So what you're seeing here is what you call the front end. However, these things that you're seeing in background that no one would like even to see is what you call back end. So how you organize your code actually matters to make sure that what you're putting here does not appear in front. So that brings us to what we call MVC, model, view, and controller. So right now we're going to look at what we call model. I've been looking at views. or what the user sees. So a model will help us to organize our things in a certain order. Let's say that you have a school management system whereby you have users, or you have teachers, you have subjects, you have students, you have classes, you have exam, you have marks. So all those are different things that have to be treated differently or in separately. You cannot save the marks in the same table with what? With a teacher. Okay, you cannot save exam with same table of marks or something like that. So it means that you have to separate things. So to separate things means that if you want to save a user, you have to treat them, all their operation, you have to put them in the same thing. Okay, for example, like fetching users, filtering users, all of those ones, it would be good if you put them in one thing. If you want to deal with the exam, you do everything and put them in one thing, something like that. So if we do like that, it enables us to keep our things organized. If I want to see where I want to fetch users, I'll have a section where I can find them. If I want to see where I would like to fetch maybe exams, I have where I can find them. If I want to compute maybe for the best performer in maybe report card, I know where to find them. So that art of putting things in one, or putting related things in one organized place, we call them what? A model. Okay, so we're going to create different models. So we're going to get introduced to models. So a model is just nothing but a class. So when you create its instance, you call it a what? We call it an object. All right. So we're going to be designing different models. For example, right now, let's go. We're going to see how we can get introduced to models, and we can create, for example, a model of a user. Okay. So now I'll come here and come to our project. So since our screens is the front end, or who have been keeping our things, so it will be wise that we create models also in a different in a different folder, so it cannot mix up with with the user interfaces or with the screen. So to do that, I'll just simply come here to lib and then create new directory, and this directory we can call it what? We can call it models. All right. So in this models folder is where I'm going to do what? It's where I'm going to put the what? It's where I'm going to put the directory. The models themselves. So let's define our first model. So I'll just simply come and say new file. Remember, I'm putting it in models, not in what? In screen. In screen it's where shall be putting what? Things that we need to display on the user side. So let me go ahead and put a new, and then go ahead and say file, and then I'm going to call this one what? I'm going to call it a model. I'm going to call it user model, like this .dat. It's nothing just but a dat file. So let's go ahead and create a class for a user model. So to create a class, you just simply say class and then say model user, like this. Then you determine which properties you want to put for this user. Okay, so now what are the properties that you want to be saving about the user? Let us say that we are creating a simple circle management system or a simple accounting management system. So what we shall do, or a simple bank management system. So what we shall do, we shall just simply come here and determine which things we want to record about the user. For example, we can say we shall need an ID of a user. It will be an integer. So create an object, an integer, and call it ID equals, for example, make it by default to be 0. Then we go ahead and create a string, and this can be name of a user, and make it 0, and maybe put their email. Yeah, I think those are enough. Or maybe you can even put a phone number, or maybe their sex, and or can call it gender, and then their contact. All right, so we have determined our model. We're going to need the name. We're going to need the email. We're going to need the gender, and then the address of the person. So that is your model. So everything that we shall need to be doing about the user, we can put it here in the what? In the user model. Hope we are together, guys. So now we're going to see, for example, how can we present these users, all right? So we're going to get introduced to now what we call list. So this is a model, okay? So if you want to create a new model, an object of this model, you can create it separately, okay? You can create it separately, and then you create an instance of it. So it will be having this structure that we'll have defined here. So this will save you not to organize, not to mix the back end with what? With the front end. So what we're going to do, we are going to create a list, a dynamic list. So that takes us to another topic. How do you create dynamic list? We're going to create a dynamic list of different user models. All right. So let's go ahead and create a dynamic list. So I'll come here and open our screen. Okay, so let's first go to, okay, I'll come here and create and open a screen. I can just simply copy this. Okay, let's create a new screen. So I can come here and say new file and call it dynamic list screen.dat. All right. So that is dynamic list screen, and then I'm going to make it what? A stateful widget. All right, so I'll go ahead and import whatever I want. Okay, so I want now when someone clicks here, it should be taking us to this dynamic list. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Now I'll come to our home screen. To our home screen, and then come and create a new object and call this one what? And put this one to dynamic list. So if someone clicks here, it should be taken to dynamic list. Let us call it dynamic list. Alright, so put here alright. So we're going to see how we can create dynamic lists, okay, with the use of models. So if I click here, our list is it's empty and there is nothing there. So let's go to our screen there. Now what we're going to do, we're going to create here our app bar. Let's turn scaffold. It has app bar. That's it. All right, so what we're going to do here, we're going to put our initialization method. So this initialization method will help us to initialize things, like when the screen starts, we want to initialize things. So to do so, I'm going to put just a simple method that's returning nothing and call initialize maybe init screen. So initialize screen, it is just my own method that I've created there. I want it to be called when this system opened, or when someone clicks on this one. Okay, so if I want it to be opened when someone clicks on it, let me put here print. All right, so I can just simply say screen opened. Okay, screen started, or let's say something like that. All right, so if I save, let's go back and then go to our console. Now if I click on dynamic list, you see there is nothing like screen started. You see it is not there. Even if I click again, it is not there. But I want this screen to be called, I mean this function to be called when the screen starts. So to do so, you have to trigger it when the screen starts. So to listen to the screen start hook or event, you do what you call you put it inside what you call init state. You override init state and then you put it there. Just simply write override and then put void, then init state, and then open bracket and then curl bracket next to it, and then come and say super.init state. So this init state, it will be called by the Flutter itself, or to be called by operating system when this screen starts. So if you want to do something when the screen opens immediately, you have to call it inside this override that we have just made. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to call this method of init screen here. So if someone clicks on init on our list, or when this screen opens up, we automatically call this init screen. So let's try that again. So if I click here, you'll see screen started, meaning that has now been successfully been called. It has been called successfully. All right. So that is how you do the logic of listening when a screen opens. Because most of your application, you need to do some things as soon as the screen does what? As soon as the screen does open. Now, with that much said, we're going now to create our list of objects of user models, so we can be able to see how we display them dynamically on the list, on the user interface list. So what I'll do here, I'll just simply say our list of, so this is how you create a list. Say our list of, go ahead and say user model. So it will be imported. After importing it, go ahead and put maybe users, and make this list to be empty. Alright, so there we have simply created our list of users, but this list of users is empty. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create user objects and add one by one in this list. So let's go ahead and create our first user object. So we shall do that logic here in the init screen. So you can say maybe our u1, so you just simply come and say user model u1 equals to user model like this. You don't need to put the word new. Then you can as well surround it with the constructor. You can put here constructor if you want to. So I'm going to get these guys and add them in our list. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll come here and say our user interface 1.I equals to what? Equals to 1. So I'm defining this first user. This first user model. And then I give him a name, John Doe, and give them email, jdoe@gmail.com. All right. All right, so go ahead and give it a name. Go ahead and give it a gender. And then go ahead and give it phone number. All right. So after doing so, we'll come up with such a such a model. So what we're going to do, we're going to add this model in our list. So after we've defined it, we have given it values. So you see, like, everything is in a structure that we defined. You cannot put something that does not exist in that structure. Okay, so this will keep you well organized. I'm going to go ahead and add this into our into our users model. So just simply come here and say dot add. So we shall have our item in that way because we have added it. So after doing so, alright, so this one is asking how can I call a method directly within the widget of an app without initting. Yeah, we shall see all that. You can do that also by, let me say for example here, print, and let me say maybe there are what? There are these users in a list. So we want to call this method. If you want to do that, I can just simply come and say sample body there are so many ways. I even demonstrated that. So this is a text. So this text you can surround it to what you call inkwell. Inkwell is a widget that will give you a click listener. So come and surround it with for example center, and then come and change this center with what? With inkwell. Alright, with inkwell like this. So if you give something an inkwell, if you surround it with an inkwell, you will go ahead and okay, so you'll go ahead and surround it with what? With inkwell, and then inside the inkwell you put on top. Okay, so inside this inkwell you put what you call on top. So if someone click on this on top, you can be able to now to call this method. Okay, you can now be able to call this method like this. All right, so you just use on top methods, and then it will enable you to execute something when someone does an action. So I save. If someone now clicks on this text, if I click on it, tap, you see there are 1 users in the list. So now because I'm not clearing the list, I'm not clearing it, I'm just adding. So if I click again, you see there are now 2 users. So it keeps on what? It keeps on adding their users. You see that? So that is how you trigger a click listener, and that's how you call a function after triggering. I hope you've got me. So let me come here and clear before I start adding to avoid what? To avoid duplicates. Alright, so I hope you've got me. You can put the message in the chat if you understood. So the next thing, let's add there some more items in the list. Okay, can call this one number 2, call it so I can call this one gender. All right, let's add more too. Okay, so here I have to add, this was I2, U2, U2, U2. Let me come and add it here also, and then come here, U3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and then I add here 3. Okay, so it means that every time you start the screen, this will be triggered automatically, and then we shall be having our item in the what? In the list. So let's see that. So if I come here to where there is the title, dynamic list, I can put my own bracket, and then I be calling there the length of what? The length of a list. So you cannot see something that means. So let me remove this user. Alright, so there are 5 items right now. So if I close and I open again, you'll see it will be called automatically and then update the list. So let's go ahead. I see, so here add I2, we're adding I1, we come and add I2, and then we are supposed to add I3. Those are 3 items. I don't know why showing them too. Alright, so we shall find a state. So if I come and open, you see it will show me the number of our how long is our list. Okay, so our list are adding the first item, this clear. Sorry, this clear is done causing problem. Okay. Alright, so now we're good. Okay, we are good. See? So you see the advantage of models is that it now allows us, which enables us to organize our things in form of what? In form of models. Now, we want to display this list dynamically. How can we display this list in a dynamic form? So to do so, I'll just simply come and do what we call and come and create a list. Okay, because everything that we're going to be dealing with is going to be what? A list. So I'll come here to where there is okay. So now let's go ahead and display the list.
Recording in progress.
Hello, my internet had gone off, sorry about that. Let me share again and we finalize this. So let's go ahead and display a list. So to display list dynamically in Flutter, so I can come here in the whole body and I put what we call a list view builder. So this is how I display a list. So just simply say list view builder, open bracket, and then close it at the end. Then come and say item count, pass the number of items for your list, and then say item builder, open and receive context, and then open curly bracket, and then return whatever you want to display. So here I'm now returning the list tile. So here they give you the index of what of the list that is being of the list item that is being worked up at that moment. So I return here the list tile, and then I can put the title, the subtitle, and then the leading as the what of that particular image, or the first letter of the first image, and then I put the trailing as what? The trailing as the icon that shows on the right hand side. So that is how you present a list. You can pause the video and watch at it and look at it very carefully, because you're going to deal with list every time. So you see, that is our simple what? Our simple list. And you can see, looks nice. Alright, so I'll receive your questions if they are there before I go for a break. Members, do you have questions? So that's how we build a dynamic list. So in the next lecture, we shall go ahead and see now, okay, how do you add dynamically items in the list? So let me know if there is anyone in the question. How about calling the method directly inside the widget app body? I've already answered that. Seeing another question, does set state reload a specific part of the application? I said it reloads the whole application. We even tested that. It loads the entire application, all the things that have dynamic things, they'll go ahead and change. Okay? Any more questions? Okay, if there are no questions, let's take a break of 5 minutes, and then we come back and finish with more 30 minutes.